I can't tell if it's my glasses or if this isn't focusing today. I apologize if this is blurry. It kind of looks a little blurry to me on the screen. But be that as it may, we are going to just keep moving. I will see you on the other side. Hello and welcome to this episode of Gary Knits, Gary Rides, a Craftivism podcast at the intersection of making things and doing good. My name is Gary. I am a knitter and a crocheter, a sometimes designer, and every so often I come to this corner of YouTube to show you what I've been working on and to give you some ideas on how you can take your love of crafting and do a little bit of good in the world. You can find me on social medias over on Blue Sky as Gary Knits and on Ravelry as Gary Knits and Rides. Speaking of Ravelry, I need to set up a new discussion thread for fall knitting. We're going to be talking about all my, well, not all of, hopefully, some of my fall starts today, but I was trying to spend more time on Ravelry, and so I want to have a discussion thread so people can share what they have been working on. So go over and check it out. I will try to do that this afternoon when I finish this up. I am filming this on Wednesday, the 10th of September. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you had a great Labor Day and were able to have some fun with friends and family, or just enjoy a day off from work. At this point, I think probably most kids are back to school, so I hope that transition, for those of you who participate in that endeavor, I hope that transition went smoothly for everyone. I keep hearing that in parts of the world, or parts of the Northern Hemisphere, at least, that things have started to cool down a bit for some folks. I saw on my every Tuesday night, a group of us hang out on Zoom for a couple of hours. The link to that is down below. We'd love to see you. Someone was all cozied up in a sweater, and it looked like it was getting cold there, and she said it had actually started to cool down a bit, so that's great. It's still pretty warm here, but be that as it may, I hope you're doing well, and we have a lot to talk about today. As I mentioned last time, where I was kind of walking through some potential new starts for me, I was able to get a bunch of that started over the last couple weeks, and in fact even finished a couple of things over the last couple of weeks as well. So we'll get into all of that. In terms of what's been going on, relatively quiet, lots of like chores and house updates and repairs on appliances and things like that over the past couple of weeks. Nothing really super exciting. I think I mentioned this, we did get to go see Jaws as part of the 50th anniversary on IMAX here locally, which was a lot of fun. My husband is obsessed with the movie Jaws, so we see it. He sees it probably 3 or 4 times a year. I get roped into at least a couple of those. I think this is our 3rd time seeing it this year, so that was a lot of fun because I'd seen it on a big screen at the Hollywood Bowl with the orchestra a couple of times, but never on like IMAX, so that was kind of cool. And other than that, we had our penultimate Hollywood Bowl show this last weekend. A Latin American supergroup called MKAL. It is members of the Colombian group Bombero Estero and members of the Venezuelan group Ramayana. That one, I know Bombero Estero, but I didn't know Ramayana. It was really, really fun. They kind of got together and put out this album. I don't know if they're ever going to do anything else again. All of the songs are tied to the zodiac signs. It is a perfect like summer album. It is very breezy and fun and poppy, and so if you like sort of Latin rhythms, some Afro-Caribbean rhythms in there as well, it is a really fun album. I'll try to link to the Spotify of it or something down below, but I think it's just called Astropical, like Astro with Tropical put together. Really, really fun. Really, really fun show, although I was super tired that night and people were up dancing. I was just like, I can't. I also did something to my shoulder at the gym that day, and my shoulder was kind of working. I was like, this is like total old man at the concert who can't get up and move around with the most danceable music going on around me. I was just like, you kids have fun. And the only other big thing that has been going on is the U.S. Open. It's finished now. The U.S. Open tennis tournament in New York. I watched a lot of tennis over the last couple of weeks, which gave me a lot of time to do a lot of knitting as well. So that was great. It was really fun tournament. Although, yeah, the finals were kind of the men's final was kind of expected. The women's final was a bit of a surprise, but I felt like all the lead up into the finals was probably more exciting than the final itself. Anyway, it's a while now before the next Grand Slam tennis tournament, so that'll have to hold me over till January when Australian Open happens. Before we get into Craftivism, I always forget to do this and end up doing it midway through, but I wanted to announce the winner for the giveaway. So this episode, we were giving away this gorgeous skein of Trilogy yarns. It was a prototype for Drag Queen Pit Stop, which was part of my Stitch Out Loud yarn collection that I curated a couple years ago now, as a fundraiser for my Final AIDS life cycle. And the winner of this is Carrie Brinkman-Sewell, who is a longtime viewer and friend. So, Carrie, congratulations. I have your address because you've been a winner before, so I will, unless it's changed, in which case DM me, but I will get this in the mail sometime in the next week or so. And as we're just going to keep going with the giveaways because I'm trying to whittle down my my prize tub so it will close. And so for this time I have moving things around here. It is a duo. So this is let's see, I think they're 50 grams. Two 50-gram skeins from Haynes House. It must have been part of some sort of Christmas thing because this one is called Cruel Regifting Last Christmas by Wham. And this one is called Favorite Christmas Maybe, Favorite Things by Julie Andrews. So they're two pinks. They would be a great hat project together. Again, it's DK weight. It is 100% superwash merino, 116 yards for 50 grams. So if you are interested in winning some gorgeous pink yarn from at Haynes House, comment down below with the word pink in your comments, and you will get entered into the drawing, which will happen right before the next episode. So probably in a couple weeks time. So thank you all for participating in that and for helping me whittle down my prize pile and getting some great yarn for yourselves in the meantime. In terms of Craftivism this week, a couple things, and two of them have come from viewers, so thank you very much. I mentioned last time that I had one and forgotten to mention it, so I'm going to get to that this time. But both of these are sort of ongoing, and so time was not of the essence. But as I always say, if you see something, say something. If you see something come across your feed or you know of someone either locally to you or anywhere really that is doing some great charity work or raising awareness or something along those lines in the fiber community, please let me know. I'd love to give them a shout out and share it so that other folks can learn more about it. So the first one, and this has been going on for a while, I didn't check the date when this pattern came out, but it's at least 2019. Gritty Knits has a pattern on Ravelry called, I'm sorry, I keep looking over here because that's where my notes are, called the One Row Kerchief. Here is a picture of it. It is a very simple kind of V-shaped shawl kerchiefy thing. It is written for, well, the pattern is shown in fingering weight, so it takes one single gram, yes, 1 gram, one single skein of fingering weight yarn as shown, but the pattern is written so that you could basically do it in any weight, any yarn. Obviously, if you did it in a DK weight, you have less yards. You're just going to make a single skein. Is going to make a little smaller kerchief, but you could just keep adding skeins. It's a very, you could stripe it, you color block it, anything like that. But anyway, Gritty Knits 1-row kerchief, and she's donating. I say she, could be he, could be a they them. Don't know. I will do some research on that and figure it out. But they are donating 100% of the sales proceeds to charities supporting immigrants and asylum seekers. And on the Ravelry pattern page, it's a $4 pattern. They list the different charities that they have donated to over the years. So I know one of them was Border Angels. One of them had something to do with the southern border, in a charity in Texas. So they are continuing to donate 100% of the sales proceeds from the 1-row kerchief pattern to charities that support immigrants and those seeking asylum. So that very timely right now. Obviously, there are a lot of folks, especially on the legal side, trying to help support folks who have been kidnapped by the secret police on the streets of the United States in the last few months. And so more important than ever to be able to help those groups that are helping those at-risk communities. So great cause and a cute pattern. The other one that someone had mentioned a couple of weeks ago was Wool Aid. And they are an organization that collects and distributes warm weather apparel, or not warm weather, cold weather, warm items, cold weather sweaters, socks, accessories for children specifically. And they work with a bunch of different campaigns in places where the weather gets very, very cold in the winter. So they've mentioned children in the Ukraine, children in Afghanistan, children living in refugee camps in Lebanon, northern Canada. And so what they're specifically looking for, and then there will be a link in the show notes down below. And again, here is a QR code. If you are not watching this on a mobile device, you can just scan this QR code. It'll take you right to the Google Doc where everything I mentioned today, from patterns to yarn dyers to craftivism ideas, will be linked. There are some guidelines, but they're specifically looking for things in dense fabrics, worsted weight fabrics, because these items are going to very cold climates. And the other guideline is needs to be 80% wool or animal fiber. So no 100% acrylic, because they really are focusing on the warmth of these items. So they have a lot of helpful guidelines in terms of, they really need socks. Like most charities who are collecting items, socks are a really big thing, highly requested. But in this case, they're looking for worsted weight socks specifically, although they do say, they'll also take lighter weight socks. But oftentimes, folks in these conditions are wearing sandals, and a worsted weight sock is obviously added warmth if you're wearing a sandal, and a worsted weight sock may not fit into shoes if they have shoes. So if you are a newbie sock knitter and are interested in trying out sock knitting, this is a great way. I did my very first pair of socks were a pair of worsted weight socks that I think is a great way to start sock knitting. Even though it's probably going to end up with a sock that, if you're making it for yourself, is going to end up being a house sock, or if you have Birkenstocks, it could fit into sandals or something like that. But it, one, goes very, very quickly. Two, allows you to learn the construction of a sock, and you're working on bigger stitches. So a lot of the fiddlier bits of sock knitting. So doing the gusset and the heel flap and the turn and all that. You're doing it on bigger stitches, so your work is easier to see. So if you're interested in learning how to knit a sock, I highly recommend starting with the worsted weight sock. These are also for kid sizes. I think they're focused on kids ages 6 to 16, so it's a smaller project. So I think that's a great way. And if you don't have kids yourself, you could send them to Wool Aid, and they will get them to a child in need in a very cold climate. So I think that's a great opportunity to learn a new skill and to make something for a great cause. So link down below to Wool Aid. It's a pretty in-depth website that they have in terms of some of the campaigns that they're working on, the guidelines that they're looking for, as well as where to send the finished garments. So please go check that out. There's obviously tons of these organizations that collect charity items during the colder months to redistribute, but if you specifically are looking to work on something child size, this is a great one to think about. The last one that I was going to mention, and this is a little bit different than some of the other things that usually come across my feed, but I thought this was really an interesting project, and again, very timely in terms of what is happening, at least here in the U.S. With a vulnerable and targeted community. But it is run by, it is an Instagram account called at for Instagram, Knit Them. And what caught my attention, and then I dug a little deeper in terms of like what else they're doing, but there was a call for trans test knitters. And so what Knit Them is trying to do is to put together a pool of test knitters that are trans or non-binary, I believe, and then have those folks available to designers, specifically designers who are sort of thinking about trans knitters and trans bodies and trans, wearers of garments and accessories, and then pairing them up so that when they get a call for a test knit, the knitters can, or the designers can include some trans knitters in that test call. And so again, sort of broadening the variety of both knitters and sort of models that are making and showing the finished garments. I think it's great to increase sort of the diversity of folks, just similar to the way that test knitters have tried, or a lot of designers have tried to be more size inclusive and have test knitters that are knitting a bunch of different sizes, so you can see the finished garment in most cases, because accessories have less of a size issue, on different body types and different sizes. And so I think this is just kind of another avenue to sort of increase the diversity of the testing pools, and then have garments knit by and shown on a bunch of different types of bodies and wearers. So that was really cool. And I think in addition, what Knit Them is trying to do beyond just this call for creating a trans tester pool, is just raising the visibility of trans folks in the knitting community. If you read through some of their posts, they talk a lot about sort of feeling invisible in the fiber community as a trans maker, and this is just a platform to increase the visibility of trans makers across the fiber world, knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, etc. And they're building a database of both, I think, patterns and designers, trans non-binary designers, as well as patterns that are specifically designed for trans folks, or sort of more non-gender conforming designs and things like that. So go check out Knit Them. I thought it was a really cool idea. I think this concept of having a trans knitter, test knitter pool that designers can then tap into to try to increase the diversity of their test knitting pool is a great idea. So if you know someone, please pass that along. If that is you and you're interested in test knitting, definitely sign up. I totally think it's free, and see what comes of it. I think it's a great idea. So that's knit them on Instagram. Again, everything's linked down below. So let's talk about some knitting. As I mentioned, lots of sitting and watching tennis over the last couple of weeks, which gave me an opportunity to start a bunch of projects and do a lot of knitting. And we'll start with what I am wearing. As I mentioned last episode, finishing these big projects like my Marled Magic shawl and the scarf that had been long gestating projects that I had a deadline on and was really focused on. I wanted some quick instant gratification projects to sort of bridge those bigger projects and then some bigger projects that I had for the fall. So the first one I cast on, and thanks to Angela, Balls of Twine here on YouTube and Instagram, because she recommended this to me. This is the Dancing Droplets Skinny Scarf by Stephen West. So it is part of his second collection of skinny scarves. I think this one has the Pierre and one more in it. It is a single skein of DK weight project. I did mine in a Magpie Fibers. This is from the Fiber Society Club. I think it's like number 24. So it's on their Swanky DK base. So it's a merino cashmere nylon. And it was really fast. It was fun. It has these little droplet stitches that, kind of keep it interesting. It's not a really difficult repeat. I think it's like a 24 row repeat, but simple construction and not, I would say, 100% mindless, but very quickly you kind of get the rhythm of it. And so it's something that I could do and, be watching tennis or socially knitting as well. So both of my finished objects this week have a little story time associated with it. So the Magpie Fibers Swanky DK skeins are listed as 115 grams. And the pattern calls for a 100-gram skein of yarn. So, and he in the pattern, it's a paid pattern, so I'm not going to give too much away. But you do a certain amount. I mean, you start at one end and you do a certain amount of number of pattern repeats, increasing all the way. And he gives you a set number of those to do, and then, he says, but weigh your yarn when you kind of get there to make sure that you haven't gone over the halfway mark in your yarn. Since I knew going into this that I had a bigger skein, I weighed my yarn at the beginning, and it ended up being 117 grams. And so I was hopeful that I was going to be able to make it a little bit longer, maximize my yarn usage, and get an extra pattern repeat. Again, the pattern repeat is something like 24 rows, or it's not just a few rows. It's a significant number of rows. So I get through the sort of prescribed number of repeats doing the increases, and I weigh my yarn, and it is, I want to say, like I had 71 or 72 grams left. 117 divided by 2 is 58.5. So I thought, hey, I've got a decent amount over what the halfway point of the yarn is. So I'm going to forge ahead and do an extra pattern repeat. Now, it makes sense in retrospect that, when you've gotten to that halfway point, you're at the widest point of the scarf. So your pattern repeats are using the maximum amount of yarn that you're ever going to use in a pattern repeat. So I didn't really think about it as I was starting it that, that might be cutting it close, because it seemed logical that I would have plenty of yarn when I got to the end. So I did my next pattern repeat and then weigh the yarn again. 58 grams. So 58.5 would be halfway. So I was just over halfway. And I guess, maybe I could have done a little figuring out and kind of figured out how to maybe not pull back a whole pattern repeat and do it halfway and then start the decreases. But I just decided to roll the dice and keep going. And hopeful that I was closer to the 58.5 than I was to the 57.5 on my scale that only goes to whole numbers. But what I started to do was a little bit of creative yarn management. So each of the droplet stitches, which involve, it's like a dip stitch. You're dropping down some X number of rows and you're pulling up a loop and then you're doing it again. So there are X number of loops in one of these droplets. And so what I started to do as I started the decreases, was every so often make one loop less. So, and I kind of was looking at it, and I also tried to make them like a little tighter. So each at the biggest one you get is maybe an inch. And so I thought, well, if I'm doing these and there's 6 of these on a row or starting out, and there's probably 50 more of these things to do. If I do half of that, that's 25, and if I can save an inch on each one, that's almost a yard of yarn, and maybe that'll save me. But I kept going and kept going and kept going and got down to, probably the second pattern repeat from the end, and it was looking pretty grim. So, and I posted on Instagram, Yarn Chicken has begun. And so then I got a little more aggressive on the, on the yarn measure. So it was like every other one. I'm just doing like, X minus 1 of the stitches. And very kindly, Christy from Birdie Parker Designs commented on my post. I think I have that skein of yarn. So it's not like, it's a Magpie fiber. I can just go to the Magpie site and buy another skein if I wanted to. So I was kind of thinking about other yarn that I had. And if I got down to the end, do I just, if it's just a little bit, do I just take some like gray yarn and just like kind of finish it off? And people were like, oh yeah, I think, like just a little pop of color at the tip would be really fun. I found another skein of kind of similar, not a Magpie fiber, another dyer, but it had a lot of the same colors in it. It was a little darker gray, but it was fingering weight. So I said, maybe if I just held that color double, or if I get to the end and I've rip it out a few inches and then just start alternating yarns, like make, just take maybe a solid gray and do one row with that and the other and try to blend it in. So I kept going, and then luckily somewhere along the way I also, I think, missed up a count and decreased at a slightly faster rate, or maybe skipped one did 2 decreases and skipped some rows in the middle. Anyway, I got to the end and I ended up with 1 gram of yarn. So I've unwound. I mean, it's actually 1 gram of yarn. I mean, it's several yards worth of yarn. So even probably without the creative yarn management, I would have made it, but it would have been very, very close. But I was very happy to have won Yarn Chicken, not having to take Christy up on her offer, and not had to do some blending or a little color pop at the end, which would have been fine. It's just, for me, it's just, it's a great, I love these. I know there's a lot of pushback on, or I've seen a lot of people like, we're done with the skinny scarves. There's so many of them, blah, 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 blah. And who even wears them? I actually love a small scarf because it doesn't get cold enough here. But in like the fall, or if I'm traveling somewhere in the fall and I don't want a big scarf, I do like to have it. Just keeps your neck a little warm, and it's a fun little color pop because as you all know, I don't really wear anything other than navy blue and gray and olive. So this is where I get my fun little pops of color and stuff. But this is a great, because of the olive and that sort of purpley blue in there, it's a great piece for me because it will match a lot of what I wear. And yeah, I think it's fun. So I would highly recommend this project. It's a great, fast, instant gratification knit. Because it's DK weight, it goes really fast. I started this, I think, when the U.S. Open started. I started right after the last episode, finished it in under 2 weeks while I was working on several other things. So, again, Dancing Droplets by Stephen West, highly, highly recommend. So the other thing that I said I was going to do and did was I keep a bunch of sock tubes hanging out for these exact situations where I'm like, I just want to do something fast, and I would love to have another pair of socks, but I don't, want to knit the whole thing. So, Elba, I'll link it down below, of Totally Tubular sock tubes here in California, has a great sock cranking service. I think she has 4 different sizes. I know 64 and 72 because I've done both of those. I think she said 48 and maybe it's 56. So she has 4 different sizes. You send her yarn for $20. She will crank it into a tube. She will either crank the whole thing, or if you want 20 grams of it left for heels, toes, and cuffs, she will do that as well, and then she sends them back to you. So, it does add some expense to the cost of a knitted pair of socks, which are not cheap anyway because yarn's expensive. But like I said, I just love to have these for break glass and emergency situations where I'm like, I want a new pair of socks, I want to get it done fast, and I can just do heels, toes, and cuffs and be done. So I did just that. Here are the socks. So this yarn was from my local yarn store, which is the Knitting Tree in LA. And I had the ball here. It's a German sock yarn called Online Sock something. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I'm sure the second I don't need to be talking about it, I will find it. But it's a German commercial sock yarn called Online is the name of it. And they do a bunch of different colors. And I took that sock tube and used Marigold from Treehouse Knits from her Cocoa collection and did the heels, toes, and cuffs. One of the things I was specifically... So my standard cuff is a 1x1 twisted rib. Again, there are some stories here. I've done several socks from sock tubes. These are 64 stitches. I did a bunch, or not a bunch, but I did like 3 pair, I think, from Totally Tubular before on 72. I typically knit 68 on a US 1. And so it's kind of in between. I found that 72s like a little loose, so I'm trying the 64s this time. But what that I didn't account for was specifically on the heel, because the stitch count is different, that I couldn't do my normal heel. The heel ended up being smaller than what I typically think my afterthought heel is going to be, and I didn't really factor that in when I started doing it. So I knit the first so did the cuff first, and I had forgotten. I know that I don't love the Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off on cuffs because it flares a little bit, and I've done something else in the past and I can't remember what that was because I didn't write it down. I'm trying to be really good on socks, and I have a little notebook where I'm trying to take a lot of notes so that I can finally someday down the road just be able to like know exactly what to be doing on socks. But I didn't write that down, but I knew it wasn't that. And so I went on the internet and Googled stretchy bind offs, and someone said the knit two through the back loop. They like that for, I don't know if they specifically said for cuffs of socks. So that's what I did. I did the first one, knit through the back loop, and then moved on to the heel. I'm also weighing my yarn after every piece because I wanted to try to figure out how I have so many little scraps of fingering weight yarn. I wanted to see, how much yarn does it take to do my 1.5 inch 1x1 twisted ridge cuff, an afterthought heel, afterthought toe, so that I can start going through my scraps and not have to like break out a new mini every time, and mix and match and things like that. So I was weighing my yarn. So I did the cuff, moved on, weighed the yarn, moved on to do the heel, and I was getting to the decreases were happening. I was like, this just looks like a little bit smaller than what I'm used to. And then I realized, oh, you're doing it on 8 less stitches around, so you probably need to make it a little bigger, longer at least. But I went ahead and I sort of tried to fudge it a little bit, and like halfway through did like a plain row to make it to add that in. And then I said, well, it may be a little tight on the heel, and as a result, it's also probably going to be a little short because I didn't add extra stitches in, so I probably need to make the toe a little longer. Anyway, I was trying to do all this like thinking in my head about things. Went to put it on and could not even get the cuff over my heel. I wanted to test it because the toe was not on yet. So I had to rip out the bind off, and ended up finding the woman Jenny of the Surprisingly Stretchy Cast On. After she did that, she did another bind off, or developed another bind off that was in a Knitty magazine. I'll link down below. It's a sewn bind off. It's called the Interlock bind off. And she said it was, as stretchy, but looked nicer to her. And so I thought I would give that a try. Now, let me see if I can. One of these, I think it's this one. I blocked them now, so it kind of worked itself out. But one of them, I started doing it, and then halfway or more than halfway through, I was like, I don't think I'm doing this correctly. It's binding it off, but it wasn't. It was looking a little wonky. And then on the second one, now they both look about the same. But I kind of figured out the process. It's it's much like a sewn bind. If you're kind of Kitchenering, through the do it knitwise, do one purlwise, and it's in the Knitty magazine. It's very easy once you kind of get the hang of it, and it goes pretty quickly. But it is stretchy, and I do like the look of it better than the Surprisingly Stretchy bind off. Anyway, did it again. Was able to test the heel. The heel felt tight, so I decided to make the toe a little bit longer to at least give it a little extra length. And so that now makes me want to go. So they're a little tight. They're not terrible. But I think that if I duplicated exactly what I did on the first sock on the second one, because I wanted them to match, even if they weren't. The second one was going to be a little tight as well. But it kind of makes me now want to grab another one of the sock tubes, even though that wasn't part of the game plan, and really make sure that I've got the recipe right for how to do the sock and I think the toe's fine. It's the heel is where I think I need to make it a little bit bigger. And I do think I prefer of the two, I prefer the 64 to the 72, because I'd rather have it a little tight than a little slouchy and falling down my leg. But I'm very happy with the way otherwise the colors turned out. I think these look really cute, and I will see. I'll probably wait till later this fall to do another sock tube sock and kind of get that process nailed down. But again, instant gratification, really fast. The cuff by far takes the longest, but I was able to get 80% of a cuff done on a bus ride to the Hollywood Bowl the other night, and the toes and the toes and the heels go super fast. So I love that for a quick, easy project. Highly recommend the Totally Tubular sock tube service again, and she is linked down below. So those are kind of my two instant gratification projects, and I did cast on other things that are longer term. I have no deadlines for any of this stuff, which has just been fantastic. I can kind of just say, oh, today I feel like working on my Loveland shawl. Today I feel like working on this crocheted charity hat. And I just love kind of being able to go where the wind blows me and not feel like, oh, I have to get this thing done by a certain time. There are no gifts, and I love that. So I've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 new starts. Oh, five new starts, and then one long gestating one. In fact, the longest whip that I have. And let's do that one first. So this is my habitation throw. It's been a while since I've shown it because I hadn't been making any progress, but this is my sort of go-to, sitting on the TV watching tennis, knitting, or watching whatever we're watching. This was a 2021 advent from Goosey Fibers. The theme was To Kill a Mockingbird, so all of the mini skeins have something to do with To Kill a Mockingbird. And I started it in December of 2021 and got exactly like 2 mini skeins in, and then put it down, never to be picked up again until earlier this year. I started up again. So here is, I'll see if I can, here is how it's gone. So it's a really nice fade. And then I have, let me turn it around, because where the marker is here is, I think, where I was last time I showed it. So I've probably, in the last 2 weeks, gone through, looks like 1, 2, 3, almost 4 of the minis. I think I'm on mini number 16 now. So I think I have 8 more to go. I would love to get this finished by the end of the year, but again, no pressure to finish it, because I do have several other advents that I would like to do something with. But I like how it's turning out. It's a nice, it's fingering weight. Helen Stewart is the designer. I think every year she comes up with an advent or a pattern that is designed for, countdown calendar type of things. I know she has a circular one, which is called Anthology, which I think I have a plan to do as well. But I actually love this as a weight for like a little throw. Again, because we live in a warm climate, we don't need super heavy worsted weight blankets. But this is a great thing just to kind of throw on in the evening when you're sitting on the couch. So this is the Habitation Throw by Helen Stewart, the To Kill a Mockingbird 2021 advent from Goosey Fibers. I'm not getting an advent this year. I've said I'm not going to get another advent until I finish this and at least one more. So maybe by next year, I will have created some space for an advent, because I know I have at least one more fingering weight one and a DK weight one, in addition to like some sock advents that need to get done. One of which I'm going to start. This could be my advent, my December advent for this year's Always Be Kind yarn Christmas advent from last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember. So that was that. So the new starts. Well, actually, no. I have another one that I had started but then put down, and now I've picked it back up again, and I'm really enjoying this. And I thought it was something that I couldn't do while doing other things, but I actually can. And this is the Harriet sock by Summer Lee. I'm doing this in Woolenberry or Woolberry. My Courage Always Rises is the colorway. This was a sock set that was gifted to me by Rachel of Pearls and Polish as part of her sock swap exchange that she does every year. Really pretty, lovely little cable design on 2 ways, and then when you get down to the gusset, the cables split. So I'm looking forward to continuing these. It's a great, you only have a cable row every 4th row, and I've gotten it down now. I can do it without the cable needle, and I'm not dropping stitches, so all good. And yeah, these will be continue to work on these. There will be other socks that get done in the meantime, but these are nice just to kind of have when I feel like, ooh, I want to do some cables. And yeah, so the Harriet sock by Summerlee. I will say, so this is from her sock project book, and I got to a point, because I think the last time I showed this, I had just finished the cuff, and when you get to the body of the sock, or the leg of the sock, you have to do a round where you add some stitches to get to a stitch count that you need, because you've been doing ribbing and you need an odd number or something. And when I picked it back up, I was doing some counting when I was the first few rounds, just to kind of reacquaint myself with where things were, and the stitch count was off. And so I think I tinked back, and then I realized, oh, there's this round where you have increases, but I'm like, it's still not, the math isn't mathing. And so I went online to Ravelry and was reading some comments. Summerlee has a Ravelry board, but it seems like she doesn't really participate in it too much. But there was an errata, because I went to the publisher's website, I couldn't find anything. I went to the pattern page on Ravelry, there was nothing noted there. And so then I got finally to the message board on Ravelry, and there was an errata discussion thread. I didn't see anything specifically for this one, but there were a lot of issues with patterns in this book in terms of people have found stitch count issues and things like that. So it looks like, having looked ahead, it's just in the stitch count for the leg, and then once you get down to the heel flap and gusset, that the numbers get back on track. But just note, if you're a sock knitter and you have that book, definitely go check out the discussion group on Ravelry, because it seemed like there are a fair number of patterns that have errors in them that the publisher and the designer haven't made note of in any of their official. I went to her website, I didn't see anything there as well. So just be warned about that. I think people have provided the information, and I should probably go do that as well. Just say like, oh, on this one, this size, I'm not going to go through and try to tech edit her pattern for her, but on this particular size, there is this issue, but it looks like it kind of resolves itself by the end. But just don't get confused when you start it. But that's a fun little sock, and I'm looking forward to having another pair of solid socks, because I just finished that one pair, and those will be my only two ones in the pattern. The other thing I started, and this is a charity project, probably go to Knit the Rainbow, but maybe I'll send it to, well, it's probably too big for a kid. I was going to say to Wool Aid. This is a crochet project. Also filling my wanting to always have a crochet project on the needles. This is the Beanie Faction beanie by Slip Sis. So Gabs and Che over at Slip Sis designed this a while ago, and I don't even remember doing this, but they were showing it on their channel last month or a couple months ago, and said, oh, thanks to Gary of Gary Knits that for the name. So they did this a while ago, but I think they designed it but never put it out. And then sure enough, there in the pattern it says, thanks to Gary for naming it. So at some point they must have said, we have this pattern, what would be a good name for it? I've slept since then, so I've totally forgotten ever saying Beanie Faction, but it's a cute name. So fast, I was shocked, and I was like, oh, this is why I love crochet, because doing the body, the crown, and the body of this was just super duper fast. Then you get to the ribbing, and that is taking a long time, because unlike knitted ribbing, each row is one rib, and so and also I crochet a lot slower than I knit, because I'm constantly having to count. But you do the ribbing and then you pop it up, and so I will finish this up in the next couple weeks. But I kind of think it's kind of, so it's being done in chroma worsted from Knit Picks. The color is Ponderosa, but I kind of like how you get the striping horizontally, and then you're going to get these vertical stripes on the brim. you know, I think another thing that you could, it's a free pattern and a suggested donation to a local food bank if you knit it. But I think one of the things I might, so it's knit in a spiral, so you don't, or knit, it's crocheted in a spiral, so you never, at the end, once you get past the increases, you no longer slip stitch to the beginning of the row and then chain up and start your next round. You just kind of are knitting in a continuous spiral. So when you get to the end, you kind of have a little step, and so when that disappears when you start picking up vertically. But one thought I had on like how I might make this go faster, and I will see how next time, is rather than knitting a spiral, do it the other way where you slip stitch to the beginning of the row and then chain up and start your next row so that you end with a flush edge at the end, and then pick up around and do a knitted ribbing on it. Never done that, sort of combining knitting and crocheting. I know people do it all the time, and I think, in fact, I want to say Chaylee did it on one of the samples where she was just like, I wanted to get it done fast, and so I just picked up and knit the ribbing. So we'll see. But this is Beanie Faction. I can't remember. I want to say it's like a G hook that you do it on, but just double crochets and then the ribbing, which is knitting, crocheting double crochet through the back loop to get the ribbing. But really fun. I have another crochet beanie, charity beanie, that is ready to go. When that one starts, I will show you when I knit it. The other thing that just started while we're talking about beanies is my holiday doodle hat. Nothing really to show here. I've just cast on the brim and have done one row of ribbing. This is the first time I've ever done one of Jamie from Pacific Knit Co.'s doodles. I've had this yarn ready to go for years, so it's a light green, a dark green, an off-white, and this red, all Madeline Tosh DK. I have not picked out the doodles that I'm going to do yet. I think last time I said I have the pattern for the cowl and the hat. I also have the book now, which has all the basic patterns in it, and I was leaning towards doing the cowl, but I wasn't sure whether to do sort of a regular cowl or whether to do the kind of infinity cowl where you make kind of a scarf and graft them together and maybe twist it and have a longer thing, because my thought is to give this to someone, and I wasn't sure which people preferred. So let me know in the comments down below, what's your preference? If you are a cowl wearer, do you like the ones that are just almost like a turtleneck, that are sort of closer? I mean, you could make it as long as you want, so you could make it loose if you wanted to, but sort of sit closer. Or do you like the kind that are longer, that you can maybe double over, or that hang lower? I don't know, because I feel like some people really don't like things up close to their neck. I mean, obviously, I think that's warmer, but not being in a climate where I'm gonna probably wear a cowl very often, I would probably tend to the looser one, because then I feel like you can kind of regulate. I also run hot, so I'm always hot rather than cold for the most part. But I'm gonna do the hat. I'll pick out some doodles, and then yeah, we'll see. I have a lot of the card decks, and I have this idea, because at Flock, one of the things she's added are these destination. So there was a Paris one, there was a Dublin one. I think there's London, but I thought it was Paris and Dublin, both places I've been in the last decade. I thought it might be fun to like make little socks with just like a little row of one motif kind of around, like of the Eiffel Tower or a pint of Guinness. I thought that would be kind of fun. So that's my doodle hat. The other thing that I have started, or one of the last two, these are the two biggest projects, but they're both worsted weight, or no, one's DK, one's worsted. Yeah, this is DK. This is my Lola Bean Yarn Co. Hip Hop Holidays Black Pearl Magic collab bag. And this is Tony Lipsy's Loveland shawl. I'm doing it in Land of the Living also from the Coco collection, Treehouse Knits, and Magpie Fibers, Swanky DK, Adela is the greatest, kind of this olive with some tonality in there. I think I'm about halfway through the first section, which is, so this is Tunisian crochet. It's been a minute since I've done a Tunisian crochet project, but here's where we are. And it kind of wants to curl, but I think that's just the nature of Tunisian crochet. But this is done in the Tunisian knit stitch, so it almost looks like stockinette. It's definitely a lot denser and thicker than this. So this is going to be a pretty toasty shawl. I'm trying to be mindful of keeping my tension a little loose so that maybe it doesn't curl as much and creates a little bit more of an open fabric. But it definitely is a denser fabric. But I love this colorway and how it's knitting up, and I think it's going to look so good with that olive green. So I'm having fun with this. Again, I'm loving being able to be like, you know what, I want to do Tunisian crochet for a little bit and pick this up. And I need to, on all of these projects, one of the things I'm also learning about having many projects going at the same time is I need to kind of pick them up on a regular rotation, or I forget what's going on in the pattern. And especially with Tunisian crochet, which I've not done a ton of, I have to go back to the Tunisian crochet handbook, the Tony Lipsy book, and remember how to do the Tunisian knit stitch. But yeah, I think that's fun. If you've not done Tunisian crochet, it's a really fun process. I will say, and this just may be me not being as familiar with and maybe being a little tense when I'm doing it. I do find that it hurts my hands a little bit. My hand gets tired more so than it does with knitting. I also find that with crochet in general, that my hand doesn't. I can't do it as long as I can when I'm knitting. So the Loveland shawl. And then the last thing that I just started yesterday, 2 days ago, is the Night Shift from Andrea Mallory. This is a slip stitch mosaic pattern. Has thousands and thousands of projects on Ravelry. But I think I mentioned last time that I think Modern Daily Knitting sometime in last year had the original colors from the original Night Shift pattern that the sample is shown on the main page in Ravelry, and they had a sale on them, and so I just snatched them up. It's all done in Spin Cycle Dream State. And so yeah, I've started this. I struggled starting. There's nothing really to the pattern, but I found this when I was designing my slip stitch pattern for Knit Stars a couple years ago. The challenge that I have with slip stitch pattern is it's easy to get this rhythm, knit slip, knit slip, knit slip, and if it gets off, it's a real pain to try to correct it. And so I have to really focus on reading each line and make sure I'm starting with the correct one. So I had to. The other issue was the first colorway. So this is the main color right now is this. It's called Melancholia, and the first contrast color is this one called Shades of Earth. It's really pretty. This one's gonna be a lot of fun. But just where it is in the yarn in the skein is pretty similar to the main color. So the contrast on the little blips is, almost non-existent. You can see a little bit of the burgundy in there, but it was really hard in that first section to kind of see what was going on. It wasn't until I added this this lighter one, which is called Deep Bump. So it's this sort of grays and yellows that I was able to kind of really get a good look at how the pattern is laid out. And I will say, I know it's not going to be a big deal, and it's all going to kind of be fine in the end. But I thought I was off. As I don't love. Let's see, like right here. There's in certain rows you end up on, and it's on the only on the little. So you have these big blips and little blips, but on some of the lines of the little blip pattern, you end up with two of them right next together at the beginning and the end of the row, and I don't know, it just looks a little off to me. I think again, as this thing grows, it's just going to all blend together, and it's not wrong. It's the way the pattern is written. I just think it looks a little. I also, the other thing I don't love about this is that you do your increases right after the I chord, and in some cases, if you're not, it's a make one. It can leave a little bit of gap between that and the I chord, and I think I think it's where the color changes happen, and so I can go back through and tighten that up. But just a couple little niggly things that I don't love. I'm having to. I mean, I think there's enough give in this I chord that with blocking, it's going to be fine to create a real triangle. But I am doing the little Stephen West trick every few rows where you knit the first three stitches to create your I chord, and then you slip them back and knit them again. So you kind of create an extra row of I chord, which just gives you a little more slack in the I chord edge, so that it will have enough give as you go to block it. But otherwise, I'm loving it. I've never really worked with spin cycle before, so it's really fun. It definitely, I get why people love the I just want to, love that just one more row to see, where the color change happens. And I think it's going to be really pretty. It's worsted weight, so it's pretty heavy. And I will say, the spin cycle colors are really, really cool. It's not the softest, coziest yarn because it's not merino. It's just 100% American wool, so it's a little more woolly. But I imagine with blocking and soaking it, it's gonna soften up a little bit. But I'm looking forward to having this around, if for nothing else, is sort of like a lap blanket around the house. And again, it's very addictive to try to get to that next change in color. So I think, that's a lot of things started. Who knows when things are going to get finished. I think that's it for the starts for a while, except for my cardigan. So I didn't bother to show it because it's just a swatch, but I did swatch for my basic set and sleeve cardigan from the Amy Herzog Ultimate Sweater book is what I'm using, the basic pattern there. I'm doing that in a Treehouse Knits sport weight. And the colorway is Dream a Little Dream. It's just a very, very inky, dark navy. Did my swatch, got the gauge that I was looking for, like the fabric, and so I'm going to go ahead and cast that on. The reason I haven't is because it starts at the bottom with the ribbing, and I want to do a tubular cast on, and I knew that was going to be like go back to YouTube, figure out how to do tubular cast on. And so that was going to take some time. And again, the last couple of weeks have all about instant gratification. So anything that's going to be like a new learning process or a relearning process, I didn't want to do. So in the next week or so, I will start that up, because I think I'll have to look at the pattern. It also, the other reason I didn't start it is because I did look at copied the pattern, printed it out. It's one of these that's written for a bunch of different sizes, and there's brackets with like 27 sizes, and going through and highlighting all those. But that gave me a chance to kind of get a sense of how the thing is structured, and there was a lot of this, do this and at the same time do this other thing, which is one of the reasons why garments have always stressed me out, is because or the thought of them stresses me out, and why I've hesitated for as long as I have for knitting garments, is just because it seems so insurmountable. I've done it. I've knit a cardigan in pieces for my husband a couple years ago, and it was an all over pattern, and there was that same thing. And so I know I can do it. It's just that every time I see it, I'm like, oh gosh, that's like a thing. That's like a hard thing to do. And it is difficult. It's not like knitting a hat where it's just, around and around and around, or a shawl or anything like that. When there's multiple shapings happening at the same time, takes a little more brain power and focus, and so that just kind of always stops me a little bit. So that's one of the other reasons why I didn't immediately cast on, even though I think I've got several inches of ribbing straight back and forth to do, and then I think the body, there's probably not a lot of shaping for a while, so I can have some pretty basic easy knitting before I get into the difficult stuff. So I will definitely get that started in the next week or so. But the other thing that is coming up, so I think that's the only start that's going to happen until something gets finished here, except for the Stephen West Mystery Knit Along. So he announced the Mystery Knit Along, which is called MKAL, I think last week, but he did like a YouTube live or an Instagram live where he's talked about what you're going to need, and then started previewing some of the kits that are available through his website. And he also has some other indie dyers who've done some mystery kits, which I think is the first time he's done this, where you just kind of have a color theme and you don't know exactly what they're going to be, which I thought was fun. So I was really excited that it is 4 separate colors. So the last one was like 2 colors, and some people's look great. I just didn't really love that as much as the ones were. I really wanted it to be like a multicolor one, because I was most interested in doing. I'd kind of said I was going to do it this year, or start it regardless, as long as I could do it from Stash. But having 4 separate colors just makes it so much easier to do Stash. So went through all that and looked at the kits that he had put together. Some of them immediately jumped out to me, and I was like, well, let me see what I can do from Stash that kind of get there in terms of the inspiration from this. And then once I pulled out the bins of fingering weight yarn and started going through things, then I started, ooh, how about this? Let me try this. So I posted on Instagram. Head over there if you want to see I think there were 6. I kind of put together 6 kits, each of which also had a mohair component, because he said there is, an opportunity to do one of his mohair dares. One of the constraints that I have is my mohair stash is pretty limited, so there are only certain colors that I could do, and hopefully that it works out, because one of the colors, it works best with one of the non-fuzzy yarns as sort of the matching it up. But I guess you could see how they look with some of the other colors. We'll see. Anyway, I had 6 over the last week or so. I've had them all spread out on the guest room bed, and I've kind of been going through them and kind of culling. So I've got it down to 3. I'm going to show you the 3. And please weigh in down below. I will say I'm kind of leaning in one direction, but I'm not 100% sold, and so I could easily be swayed by other folks' opinion if one of them really jumps out to you. So the first one that I have is, this one was a direct inspiration. I was trying to, excuse me, got the hiccups again, as always, trying to match up as close as I could get to one of his kits. It was called Daydream Century. And these were all of the ones that were done in the Westknits new base Hex, I think it's called. And I got pretty close. So it's, and I'll try to do all these. I won't show I'll describe the mohair, but I won't hold it up because it's too difficult. So this is the palette. Probably separating the purple and the blue makes sense. So I will say it's pretty close to his. I think the green he uses is a little bit darker, maybe somewhere between a Kelly green and a forest green. And I think the purple is a little more grapey. So this is a mix of Treehouse Knits, Lola Bean, this is Les Garçons, and Ken Yarn. But I don't know. I just something about this. I think it's the green that like that pop of green that really was like, huh, that's a very unusual combination. Never would have put them together on my own, I don't think. But something about it kind of intrigued me. I will give you the pluses and minuses for each of that I'm seeing. I have my very first Westknits pattern that I did, bought as a kit during the pandemic from my local yarn store. And because, we were all just trying to support her to make sure that she could keep going. And it's called the Triangle Parade. And I think she had it in two colorways. One was like had like black and like a electric green in it. And I was like, And the other one was a bunch of sort of, it's like, it has kind of a blue that's a little bit darker than this. There's kind of a pale pink. There's an orange. There's a red. And when I knit it all up, I was like, I really don't love this. I started it. I was like, these are like circus clown colors. When I finally got it all done, I ended up liking it. I'll pop a picture of it up here so you can see it. But the more I don't wear it a lot, but I do wear it, and it always kind of makes me laugh just because it's so kooky looking to me. And this kind of has that vibe. Like I'm kind of like it's kind of weird. I think these colors actually go together a little bit better than the ones in that shawl. But there was just something about it that jumped out at me and intrigued me. And so the mohair that I have to go with this is a match with the Lola being this sort of reddish burgundy color. And again, I'm not sure how. If he's going to do one of these things where it's like, here's where a great place to do the mohair, but if you're not using this color in that section, I mean, maybe it would work with some of these others. I think it would look really bad with the green, but well, if we get there and I don't think it looks good, I just won't use the mohair. So that is one that is inspired by the Daydream Century kit from Stephen and Penelope. The second one, and these two are kind of my own creations, although one of them is vaguely linked to one of the other ones. This one I'm calling Ice Ice Baby. Let me get them in the right color. And I have this silvery gray mohair to go with it, which I think would actually work with any of these colors. So this is caught on a button. Obviously a much more tonal story. Going from this navy blue Les Garçons to this tonal teal from Neighborhood Fiber Company, to this pale blue from Lola Bean, and then this pale gray from Lola Bean. So pluses. This is definitely something that would fit right into my wheelhouse in terms of colors that I would probably wear on the regular. So that is the big plus is I love, I wear a lot of blue, and so it would go with a lot of blue and gray. So it would go with a lot of stuff, that I have. The negative for me is it's right in my wheelhouse of something that so it's not going out on any sort of limb whatsoever. And also I did the last Westknits mystery knit along they did was the Geo Gradient. So that was the one that the original block had to be changed. And I did that as a tonal. So it was all greens. It was kind of a green fade. So it would be very similar in, even though the design is going to be completely different, same vibe in terms of having a tonal story. So that's the plus and minuses on that one. And someone was like, just knit them all. I was like, my gosh, I mean, it's enough for me to not even try to finish this thing in the month that they do it, but just to finish it before the next one starts. So I'm trying to do it 3 times. One, I'd rather just knit Westknits pattern. So this is the last one, kind of vaguely based on a I can't remember which Lighthouse something in the Westknits yarn, but the orange there. This is Marigold from Treehouse Knits. The orange there is a much brighter orange. The blue is a much paler blue. So it's kind of in the that same realm, but I'm calling this one Autumnal Blow Pop because these two colors are giving me autumn, but this, I don't know, for whatever reason, is giving me like Charms Blow Pop colorway, so I named it Autumnal Blow Pop. And the mohair that I have to go with it is also the Treehouse Knits Marigold, which is being a feature color for me this season because the sock, heel toes, and cuffs were in it as well. But yeah, I guess I don't really have a negative on this one because I love it. And the positive is I love it, and I think that it's kind of just out. It's not really colors that I would normally go with, but I do think they go really. I think it's really fun together. My concern about this one is which is color A, B, C, like one of them being dominant and what that would be. My gut would tell me that if there's one to be dominant, it should probably be this sort of more neutrally gold, browny gray. And so this is the one, I guess, if I had a concern about this one, that this one I feel like more than any of the other ones, the order of placement of the colors could really change the way that it looks. So I mentioned this is Treehouse Knits. This is it's Patrick Knits, but it's oh my gosh, out of Canada. They make, oh my god, why can't I remember the name? They make self-striping yarn. Biscotte. Oh my gosh, they did my yarn for my Knit Stars kit. So this is one of their lines. Patrick Knit. Patrick is the guy one of the guys, Patrick and Louise run Biscotte, and he has his own little section that is Patrick Knits. So that's it. The colorway, I don't know. Charlie. This blue is Les Garçons, and this pink is also Les Garçons. So this is Jody's Cake, and this is Abador's Water. So Waters. So that is Autumnal Blow Pop. Again, I think it looks great. I do worry that this one, the color placement is going to make, I don't know how to say break, but is going to really determine the final product and how it looks. But that is the dice you roll when you are doing a mystery knit along. So I think I have great choices regardless. If you have one that you think stands out above the rest, pitch it in the comments and let me know. And by the time I film the next episode, I will have had to make a decision because I'm going to need to take all of the yarn probably with me on some traveling because some of the clues are going to be going while I'm on the road, and you never know what you're going to get. So at any point, it could be like you're going to use all 4 colors in this section. So I'll probably have to take them all with me, which is totally fine. But let me know what you think. And I appreciate you taking time this week. It's been a little bit long. I thought this was going to go quickly. I will try to make things shorter going forward, but I had a lot to show. Thank you for taking some time out of your week to spend it with me. I hope you have a great couple of weeks. If you enjoyed this, please do all of the YouTube things like subscribe, share it with a friend. Continue to try to build this little community, but let me know what you're working on. Have a great couple of weeks and happy crafting.